Hi, now we've finished reviewing our production possibilities model and our demand and supply model. We're going to use those two models to talk about market efficiency. Along with market efficiency, we're going to look at how the demand curve equals the marginal benefit curve and how the supply curve is the marginal cost curve. So right now those definitions don't make much sense, but as we go through this, they will. We're also going to talk about allocative efficiency, what is the best valued use of our resources. And we'll talk about the concept of an efficient market and how competitive markets allow for the greatest amount of allocative efficiency. We'll also talk about some of those things that distort the market, that cause inefficiencies, principally government intervention in the form of price ceilings or price floors, government intervention in the form of a tax or a subsidy. And then we'll talk about externalities that occur, which are basically benefits that are not captured in the model or costs that are not captured in the model. Okay, so here we go. Let's look at our demand schedule for ice cream that we developed when we were talking about demand and supply. Normally, when we look at the demand curve, we look at it from a price perspective. For the price of $6, 0 people want to buy ice cream. At a price of $3, 6 ice cream cones are sold. But we can also look at the demand curve from the quantity side, and that's where I want us to start today. So let's look at the demand curve from the quantity side. How do we value one ice cream cone? Well, one ice cream cone is valued at $5.50. That means that there is somebody, or there's a group of people out there who are willing to pay $5.50 for that first ice cream cone, because that is the benefit that they get from that ice cream cone. Now, second ice cream cone, not willing to pay quite so much, $5. Why? Because the marginal benefit starts to decrease. How about the third ice cream cone? Third ice cream cone, not so much, $4.50. Fourth ice cream cone is valued at $4. The fifth ice cream cone valued at $3.50. The sixth ice cream cone valued at $3. So as we consume more of a good or a service, the benefit that we get from that product starts to become less and less. And that means that we are not as likely to give up other items for more of, in this case, ice cream. At first, maybe you were willing to pay $5.50 for that first ice cream cone, but the second ice cream cone, now you have a choice. Well, do I want to do that? Or maybe I would rather spend my money somewhere else. Okay, as you go into the third ice cream cone, you're not as willing to spend as much or give up as much for that third ice cream cone. And so this continues. And in this way, we can see that the demand curve represents the marginal benefit that we get from consuming incremental amounts of the good or service in question. And in this case, we're talking about ice cream. And you note that the more that we consume, the value that we give to the ice cream starts to become less and less and less. This is the concept of diminishing marginal returns. So this means that as we consume more and more ice cream, we're going to have to be induced to pay, we'll be induced to pay for it at a lower price, because that dollar represents money that we could be using to buy something else. Maybe we wanted to buy French fries or a candy bar. So the more ice cream we have and we consume, the less we are going to want to pay for it, or the less we are going to value that ice cream. So this is a slightly different way of looking at the demand for ice cream. So this we call marginal benefit and the demand curve. So the marginal benefit is the benefit that the consumer receives from consuming one more unit of a good or a service. The word marginal always means one more. Okay. So as more of a good is consumed, the marginal benefit of each additional unit that we start to consume decreases. And therefore, our marginal benefit curve is downward sloping. And this reflects decreasing marginal benefit as we are consuming more. So the demand curve is the marginal benefit curve. So if we look at the supply curve of ice cream, we're going to see that the supply curve represents the opportunity cost of producing ice cream. It's not just ice cream in terms of the traditional costing that you would think of in the business, but we're looking at what else could the firm be producing that would also bring it revenue. So every time a company produces ice cream, they're not producing something else. So as a firm decides to produce more and more ice cream, their opportunity costs are going to increase. So we can see that how we measure this is going to be looking at the first ice cream cone. The opportunity cost is relatively low. They don't have to give up a whole lot to produce ice cream. If they decide to produce more ice cream, they're going to have to give up more production of another item. Let's say that this particular company has a choice of producing ice cream and maybe yogurt. And so as they produce more ice cream, they're giving up successively more and more yogurt. So the supply curve represents the opportunity cost, and it's also the marginal cost curve. For each increased unit that is produced, they're giving up successively more. Therefore, the marginal cost curve is upward sloping, and the marginal cost curve is the supply curve. So to summarize, marginal cost is the opportunity cost of producing one more unit of a good. So marginal cost is the opportunity cost of producing one more unit of a good. As more of a good is produced, the marginal cost of each additional unit increases, the curve slopes upward, and the marginal cost of a good tells us how much will be supplied into the market. It is the minimum price at which producers will produce a certain amount of a good or a service. So the supply curve is a marginal cost curve. Finally, we're going to talk about allocative efficiency. Okay. And allocative efficiency means that point where marginal benefit equals marginal cost. It is where both marginal cost and marginal benefit intersect. Now, if the price represents the opportunity cost of foregoing consumption of another product for a consumer, and the price represents the opportunity cost of not producing another item for the seller, okay, the point where those two intersect means that they have found that exact point where benefits of consuming equal the cost of producing. And this is considered to be allocatively efficient. In competitive markets where there are many buyers and sellers, the most efficient outcomes are going to occur. So if we look at our demand and supply schedule here, we have seen that at this point, which is also our equilibrium point, right, we have determined market price and market quantity, but we've also determined efficient allocation, or how much we should produce, by comparing. We are comparing marginal cost and marginal benefit. Okay, so let's look at the graph over here. Here we have our marginal benefit, or our demand curve, and here we have our supply curve, or our marginal cost curve. At an output level of 4, marginal benefit is greater than marginal cost. So what do we need to do? We need to be producing more because we're still getting benefit from this. Or ice cream, we need to be consuming more ice cream. So we need to consume more, and that's going to push us more towards our equilibrium. And a producer needs to produce more. And that's going to help us achieve allocative efficiency. So when we are on the left side of our equilibrium point, we need to be consuming more of this product, and the producers need to be producing more of this product. Now, what about the other side? What about if marginal benefit is less than marginal cost? So over here, we can see if we follow our demand curve, we can see that our marginal benefit is now less than our marginal cost. So it's costing us more than we are getting benefit from. So what is the implication here? Well, we are overproducing, and what we have to do is we have to produce less, so suppliers need to produce less, and demanders need to demand less. Okay, so that will push us towards our allocative efficiency. Okay, so in a situation where marginal benefit is less than marginal cost, that implies that we are producing way too much product. The prices are higher. Demand over here, we can't buy that. We have an inefficient allocation of resources towards the production, in this case of ice cream, at higher prices that nobody really wants. So to summarize, efficiency means getting the most out of your available resources. Allocative efficiency is the efficient production of goods and services that are most highly valued. Okay, we talked about marginal benefit, which is the benefit that a person receives from consuming one more unit of a good, and that the demand curve is the marginal benefit curve. We talked about the marginal cost curve, which is the opportunity cost that a producer or a seller faces by producing one more unit of a good or service. The supply curve is the marginal cost curve, and it represents, we should also consider, and finally we talked about the efficient allocation, or how much we should produce, is found by comparing the marginal benefit to marginal cost. So the rule is, if the marginal benefit is greater than the marginal cost, then you need to be producing more to move you towards equilibrium. If the marginal benefit is less than the marginal cost, in other words, you're not getting that much benefit and it's costing you more, then you produce less or you consume less. The efficient allocation rule is where marginal benefit equals marginal cost, and perfectly competitive markets are considered to be allocatively efficient. We will be looking at these concepts again when we talk about imperfect markets, in addition to government intervention in the market.